Hey there, fellow wanderers. I hope you're all doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you've been here before, I'm sending you a big virtual hug to welcome you back. I'm Becky, the slow traveling wanderer. In my last video, I mentioned I'd be creating a video on why I've made the decision to live in Mexico City. This video is for anyone considering living in CDMX or perhaps visiting for the first time. CDMX stands for Ciudad de Mexico. It's the preferred acronym the city uses to get away from DF, which used to mean Distrito Federal, Federal District, and that's the old name and it no longer goes by it. That's why when you visit the city, you'll see CDMX plastered everywhere. I wanted to show you why it's such an amazing, dynamic, artistic, engaging, safe, diverse, quirky, surreal, green, and gorgeous city. And I wanted to show you the amazing quality of life that it offers, one that very few other cities can compete with. It is a global city through and through. I've lived in LA, New York City, San Francisco, London, Hamburg, and Barcelona. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of opportunities to live overseas. And having that broad range of experiences, I have a lot of examples to compare it to and can tell you that only a couple of cities I just mentioned offer so many factors combined that contribute to such an exceptional quality of life. Mind you, I'm a big city girl. So I realize that we all have different needs and wants, and a big city may not be ideal for some, and you may prefer a smaller, slower lifestyle, and that's okay. And we all know Mexico has a lot of different types of cities and lifestyles to offer throughout the country. Whether you want beach life, bohemian, off the grid, traditional, rural, and ranch style living, small towns, etc., it has it all. Having said that, if you live in Mexico, or are planning to move elsewhere in Mexico, and you've never been to Mexico City, then you must pay the capital a visit. By the way, after starting this video, I realized you can't fully cover a city as large and complex as Mexico City in 15 minutes. So I've broken this down into two parts. All right, let's dive in. First off, a short disclaimer. Keep in mind that many of the experiences I talk about here happened before the pandemic. The city is much quieter right now. Although outdoor dining has reopened, and I was just there a week ago, and you can still enjoy walking the beautiful streets and visit the parks. Outdoor dining is huge since so many establishments in Mexico City have outdoor seating or terraces. So it definitely creates a feeling of a semi-normal life. I have no doubt that the city will get back into full swing in the near future. It may take a while though. Vaccinations are not yet widely available in Mexico. If you are seriously considering moving to Mexico City though, I would argue that right now is actually a very good time to do it because you're likely to get a much better price on rent given the impact of COVID. When I was there, my friends and I were discussing how many people have moved out of the city because you see for rent signs everywhere. And that definitely has depressed rents a little bit, but it also creates an opportunity for anybody who's in the position to be able to move there, right now. It will definitely pick up. It'll probably take, I would argue, a year for it to get back to where it was in 2018. In 2018, when I was there, it was growing by leaps and bounds. There were so many people who were moving there. The rents were increasing dramatically, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it's what was happening. So anyway, it's an opportunity. All right, so the first point, CDMX, what does it have going for it? I would say diversity. By the way, these are not in any particular order. It would take too much effort to, really rack my brain and try and figure out, okay, what would I place as number one, blah, blah, blah. So I just threw these out there as they came to me, but these are all factors that, again, combined create an exceptional quality of life. So number one is diversity. Mexico City has gotten very popular over the years globally. Well, it has always been a business and entertainment center for the Spanish-speaking world, in particular Latin America, but also Spain. It was not well known to people from the English-speaking world until recently. The narrative that the US media puts out globally scared many tourists from visiting Mexico for many years. However, people soon realized that Mexico is a huge country, right? Not visiting CDMX or Mexico City because of issues happening at border towns is like not visiting the entire US because you read about something that happened in Baltimore, Maryland. Well, the same applies to Mexico. You do want to keep in mind that these pictures and experiences are based on me, a single woman, traveling, throughout Mexico, and many times on my own and by myself. So if Mexico City wasn't safe, I would not have been able to do everything I have done and freely explore the city day or night on my own or with other girlfriends, as I have countless times, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Bottom line, Mexico City is safe. There are areas that do have higher crime rates, but these are also not areas where tourists are going to go because these are mostly residential neighborhoods for locals. Neighborhoods in the periphery of Mexico City. And Mexico City is huge, so I'm talking about many miles out, right? Places like Ecatepec or Iztapalapa. These are dangerous areas, right? But again, these are areas where no tourist is going to be because there's no reason to be there. All right, there are many foreigners in Mexico City, and I'll show you through my pictures and my experiences. Through a foreigners Facebook group, I met a young woman from Northern California who was organizing backpack donations when the caravan of Central Americans were passing through Mexico City. I donated to her campaign, and then when she realized that she had raised like 5 times the amount that she thought she was going to raise, people were just really, really generous. And that's what I do love about us Americans. We are very generous people, and I do like that about us. But anyhow, she'd raised so much money that she needed help buying this stuff and putting the backpacks together. So I offered to help her, and we became the best of buddies, and now she's a person that she's one of my closest friends, and anytime I go to Mexico City, I typically stay with her. Anyhow, we organized those backpacks. Then through the same foreigner group, I attended a picnic, which you see here. It was organized by a Hungarian guy who was married to a Mexican guy. They were a gay couple who are now my friends as well. Through that picnic, I met other Mexican nationals, a woman from London, a French woman. I then later met a woman from North Carolina, another one from New Mexico. That was through my backpack friend. A year later, I went back, and we all decided to get together and go dancing, and go have some food and go dancing. And in that time, I met another Northern Californian woman, and then I met an Irish woman and an English guy. Bottom line is there was all this diversity. There was, there were just so many people from all over the place. I've met Germans, Colombians, Venezuelans, many Americans, many Canadians, and some more French women, interestingly enough. The diversity of people in Mexico City and the diversity that it attracts is incredible. I'm sure that many have returned home because of the pandemic, but I have no doubt that as things normalize, people will return from many different faraway lands to Mexico City. All right, next. I love how incredibly green Mexico City is, and you can see this through my pictures here. I've never been to a large global city that is as green as Mexico City. Mexico in general has such fertile soil to begin with. Literally anything grows in Mexico. And Mexico City proper gets 6 solid months of rain. That's also why the city is such a deep green year-round, right? It's almost like a jungle, a rainforest, really. You get sun and blue skies most of the time, and definitely more days than not. And by the way, rainy season is rather long. It's from May to October. But the weird thing is that it typically only rains after 6 p.m. and it's normally done by 9, 10 a.m. the next day. So it's almost like Mexico City, negotiated something awesome with God, like an awesome schedule. And, you still have your full day typically with clear skies. And again, this is why it's so green. Next is art and culture. The museums, the art exhibits, the music, the cultural events held year-round are just astounding, and they are many. For those who aren't aware, Mexico City is in the top 10 globally with the most museums of any city. Mexico City has 200 museums approximately, and by comparison, Paris has 130 and London has 170. So Mexico City is up there. They even have a museum of torture, which you see here. It is insane. It displays the torture devices that were used by the Spaniards during the Inquisition. And let me tell you, those devices were savage. It's just insane what humans are able to do to other humans. Anyway, it's definitely worth a visit just for the sake of history and understanding that particular period in time, all in the name of religion. All right, next is weather and safety. I already touched on safety, so I'm not gonna go, deeply into that other than show you some of these videos that I have of just, random videos when I, or my friends and I, or I by myself, were walking around, at night through the parks, through the neighborhoods. I will cover what those neighborhoods are so that you're aware of them. In Mexico, they're called colonias. As I've discussed, the weather is gorgeous. You have blue skies almost year round. You do have 6 months of rain, but like I said, it's this weird schedule where it rains at night. It does get cold, I would say between November and February. And by cold, I mean sometimes at night it drops into the 40s. And the only reason that that's an issue is because Mexico City apartments typically aren't built for the cold. So you don't have central heat and that sort of thing. So be prepared if you live in Mexico City and you're a person who tends to get cold, to just make sure you have the proper blankets and proper, warm clothing to sleep in, because I can guarantee you it will be cold during those months that I mentioned, November to February, overnight. Anyway, moving on, architecture. This might fit into the art category mentioned earlier, but it really needs its own category in my opinion. CDMX really has a varied and eye-catching architectural style. Look at these pictures. Here you see the Postal Palace. Literally, it looks like a palace. It was built in the early 1900s, if I'm not mistaken, and it is a gorgeous space. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's right around the corner from the Palace of Fine Arts in the Historic Center. And then you have the Biblioteca Vasconcelos. This is an industrial style, huge library that is incredibly fascinating and imposing. Some of the floor is tempered glass, which gives you this impression when you walk, through the various levels. You almost feel like you're gonna fall right through it, but of course you don't. It's wonderful. It's definitely something to see. And then there's the awe-inspiring Museo Sumaya. This thing looks like it belongs in outer space somewhere. It's such a futuristic looking building. The building itself is, work of art in my opinion. And anyway, here are other examples, and you see these everywhere. This is why I say you can just walk the streets endlessly, because it's just, there's so much eye candy. All right, let's go on to cultural events. Mexico is very patriotic and very traditional and loves to celebrate things. Anything really, anything for a celebration. And Mexico City is all of that on steroids, right? The fact that they use this huge historic center square called the Zócalo If you've been there, you know how big it is, but they use it for ongoing celebrations and exhibits. And it's wonderful because it opens it up to all people, regardless of income, education, social status. And that is exactly the intention. The intention is for all Mexicans of all walks of life to be able to come together in this center square and commingle and enjoy, you know, exhibitions and art and culture. And I love that. These exhibits are all free when they do have them. By the way, during the pandemic, the Zócalo underwent a complete renovation that was just completed a month or so ago. And it now has, I haven't been there yet, but I hope to go very soon. It has beautiful Oaxacan mosaic paintings on the street, at the street level now. So it's very bright and colorful. And they've added benches and tables, and now you have bike lanes all around it. I mean, it really looks great. Lastly, for this part one of why I think Mexico City is the most amazing city on the planet video, actually that's not the title, but you know what I mean. The last point that I will bring up in this video is how modern Mexico City is, along with the juxtaposition of its history, which is visible to the eye sitting side by side as you walk the city and experience the city. And what do I mean by that? You have all of the modern skyscrapers you see here, made of shiny glass and all of that stuff that modern cities have, right? Alongside that, though, you can go to the historic center and see Aztec ruins, right? Templo Mayor. And then alongside that, you can walk the streets and see these beautiful Spanish and French colonial structures. And all of this makes it a feast for the eye, really. And then you can go find a Costco or Home Depot or Office Depot. Now, I think these buildings are ugly in all honesty. And when I first saw an Office Depot as an example, I was like, what the hell is that doing here? It doesn't even fit with the aesthetic, right? But I have to admit, as an American, it's nice when you need certain supplies or products. Been to Office Depot, that's where I know where it is, because I needed some certain pens that I like and notebooks or what have you. So it is nice to have, especially if you're American, because you're used to those stores and you know which products you can find there. You know, and after all, Mexico is a North American country, and that's when you realize it, right? When you can find those stores and those products from back home. All of these things I just mentioned coexist alongside with centuries old local markets and everything in between. So, you know, it's kind of a surreal mix of various eras in life and in the development of man, right? When you think back to Aztec times and colonization, and then you have, you know, modern infrastructure, and then you have all these different types of stores that you can shop at. It's fascinating. Okay, amigos, that does it for part one of this Mexico City video. To recap, the part one reasons we covered in this video on why Mexico City offers such an amazing quality of life, and I've chosen to make it my home, are as follows. Global diversity, how green the city is, art and culture, including year-round cultural events, many of which are free, weather, safety. Mexico City is a very safe city, even for a single woman such as myself. Architecture. And it's also a modern global city, sitting side by side ancient ruins and a colonial past. This makes it quite unique in the world. The city itself is a living example of the evolution of man and the evolution of society. Stay tuned for part two, where I cover the other factors, in my opinion, that make Mexico City an amazing place to live and offer a wonderful quality of life. We check out a few apartments also to see what they're going for and what your money will get you in the city. I hope you found this information and video helpful, and if you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing. I'll leave it here. Hasta la próxima. See you next time. Bye.